I'm here with Mike Watza. He's the general counsel for PROTEC, and he is with Bloom Sluggett. He's been with PROTEC for 25 years or so,
At least.
and it's PROTEC's 30th anniversary. So
Birthday.
yeah, it's their 30th birthday. So happy birthday to PROTEC.
Yeah.
So first, Mike, briefly introduce yourself and tell us how PROTEC got started in the beginning. A brief history.
Sure. I started out as a humble trial lawyer, um, litigating matters in circuit courts and federal courts. And I tried a case with Dearborn as a co-defendant, a police case, I think, excessive force. And then when the trial was done, um, I think it was Deb Walling, city attorney for Dearborn, who approached me and said, "Hey, Mike, what do you know about telecommunications? And how would you feel about fighting with AT&T?" And I said, "Well, are there two M's in telecommunications or just one?" And so that was the beginning. And I said, "Sure, I'll fight with anybody. That's what I do." But so that was the beginning of my experience with ProTech in, it must have been 1999, roughly 1998. ProTech was actually formed, however, in the halls of the Grand Hotel at Mackinac Island when former Mayor Guido, God rest his soul, got together with the mayors of Livonia and Southfield and some of the folks from Miller, Deborah, Miller, Nick Miller and Joe Van Eaton,
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, we've got these folks trying to get in our rights away, and they want to do it for free. They don't want to pay us anything, and they don't want us to tell them how to do it and where. And it's AT&T and T and a whole bunch of other folks. And Michigan Municipal League was obviously their representative in policy matters, and the league needed help, both substantively, the legal part, the policy part, and they needed a focused approach to these issues. The Michigan Municipal League has a lot of issues to face with all the local government, and so does the Michigan Township Association. So out of that, ProTech was formed in 1996.
And how much, so when they asked you the question, how much do you know about telecom? At that time, I know you told us the spelling, zero. You had,
Zero.
okay.
Yeah, but I knew how to fight, and that's what
Yeah.
I spent 10 years trying cases. And so the first item that ProTech addressed, actually, at least from the back of the room, was the Electric Transmission Certification Act that was enacted in 1996, which was one of the first preemptive statutes that really, over the last 30 years, got
Hmm.
rolling, where the state legislature decided that they were going to push local government out of the business of zoning and let, in that case, the electric transmission business decide how they're going to put in their lines, whether it was out in a farmer's field or right down Main Street, 150-foot towers designed by, an engineer and an accountant.
Hmm.
And uh, and
So,
and so that was the first law that they looked at. The one that was developing when I showed up and responded to their ask for help was the Metro Act, which didn't have a name at the time, about
mhm.
2000 and
Two.
well, it was probably 2000.
Yeah, and then 2002 is when it was enacted. But I want to back up a little
Yeah,
bit to what you said about pushing municipalities, local municipalities, out of the business of local control and their rights of way. And I want you to explain a little bit about uh, what is the right of way and why it's important that local municipalities play a hand in what's happening in the rights of way in local communities.
sure. So yeah, so rights of way, that's the roads basically that constitute the vast majority of every city, township, village assets. I mean, that's what we govern. That's what
Mhm.
we maintain, and we do it for our public members, residents, who we hold it in trust for them because they pay for it.
Mhm.
And that was the focus of that is the focus of every utility, whether it's telecommunications, cable, electric, pipeline,
Water, sewer.
water, sewer, right.
Mm.
And plus, that's how public safety gets to your home if it's, God forbid, on fire.
And so a lot of
So
people think of it as between the sidewalk and the road, but the right of way is typically in that section how people image it in their mind of
right.
where the utilities are. And if there's not a sidewalk, how do they determine where the right of way is in that case?
Typically, the right of way that the city, village, township is a little bit attenuated, but 60 feet from the center line in either direction. And while
Okay.
you as a homeowner have interest in that area, it actually belongs to the city, the village, the county, or the township. But let's stick with townships.
Okay.
So that's what the right of way is. And as part of that, and governing your home and how your home looks and how the homes around you look, all part of a larger, part of the master plan, and all governed by zoning, which was delegated by the Constitution to local government
Hmm.
to determine what our community looks like. I mean, you and I both live in nice communities that we chose to live in because of the way it looks in part, right?
Yep.
The great schools and all that, but you want to be able to drive down the street and be proud of where you live.
And
And
generally speaking, just a play off of that, when you move into a community, you do look at the overall aesthetics or the layout and how that community has been built out and possibly where it's being built out, the school system, the political makeup. And so while there are several legislative acts that in general apply to the communities across the state, there are certain things that specific communities do in regards to telecommunication or with satellite or with water towers or with cable or internet or even the windmills. That's different from what other communities are allowing or happening in their space.
yeah, so every industry, whether it's telecommunications, which is the old phone company, AT&T, or cable, pick on Comcast, or ITC, the electric transmission lines, or DTE in your right of way with the lines that feed your home electricity. They all view themselves as the most important thing going on, which is not shocking. That's just the way business is. But it has been delegated to the cities, townships, and villages to organize all that and to say, look, you can go on a pole behind the house, or you have to be underground, or whatever the requirements are. Your pole can only be 30 feet tall. And what's happened in the last 30 years in particular, and it's striking when I look back at it as I was writing our annual report for PROTEC this year and looking back 30 years, ever since PROTEC was born, and the reason it was born was because of this encroachment, this preemption that started really developing back in the days of Governor Engler,
Mm-hmm.
who I think, he meant well. And I think the legislature at the time meant well. Well, let's try and make it easy to get these industries in the right of way and move the ball and not have to deal with all these local communities. But the
And
problem is,
that's sort of the theme, isn't it?
it is the
Year
theme.
after
Oh,
year, that's
absolutely.
the theme that telecom has is let's cut the red tape. Local government is causing us to not do build out.
Yeah.
But when I was communications director,
Yeah.
we were open to competition. And I think most municipalities are open to competition and they're saying, please bring broadband into our community. We're not preventing you.
More is better.
More,
Absolutely.
more is better, but the industry continues to sell politicians well, the slowdown is on local municipalities because they want us to do permitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's an
And
important part of the process.
every industry is the same, and they all want easy, quick, free access. And the problem is that these little nicks in the zoning laws and in the constitutional delegation of zoning rights and authority over our rights of way and so on, every little nick knocks that constitutional right and the right of communities to self-govern. It just takes it down. And now we've got the Electric Certification Act. We've got solar fields, pipelines. What else have we got?
Streaming.
Well, the streaming, yeah, that's an issue.
Not to
But,
open
but
up a can of worms or
no,
anything.
but they all want their own special exemption. They don't
Yep.
want to pay anything, and we'll just put it all in the back of the taxpayer, who, by the way, are also our ratepayers, our subscribers. So we're going to ding them twice. We're going to
Yes.
take their right away for free, let them pay for it, let us use it, us being the industries, for free, and make money off of it, and not sharing the cost. I mean, it sounds good individually in the back of a room in the legislature, but when you
Mhm.
add it all together and you look at all of the items that have developed in the last 30 years, local government has been pushed to the back of the room in our own backyard. I
Keeps
mean,
getting
it's
eaten
crazy.
away. Yep.
ProTech has been fighting this fight for 30 years.
Hmm.
And oddly enough, I remember when we were fighting the Metro Act, when we were fighting that, the thought was, well, when this is done, we'll just close Protect down. But, that was 2002. And then there were efforts to amend the Metro Act and get rid of municipal broadband, the ability of a city to have their own broadband system, which we have quite a few here in Michigan now, thanks to ProTech. And then we had the amendment of the Cable Act, and it's
Hmm.
just one thing after another. And so that's where we just keep showing up, and the industry keeps fighting to push us out of our own right of way. So ProTech is here for 30 years, and I think given the way things are going, it'll be here probably another 30.
Yeah, you've had some pretty, Protec has had some pretty big wins over the years. I'm just going to mention a few here, okay? So, PEG channels, when Comcast tried to push them into what was called Siberia,
Well, that's when you and I met.
which is when
Deb,
you,
Deb, Deb,
which is when we
19 years
met,
ago, Deb, you tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I think you and ProTech need to sue Comcast," because
and we won.
they were going to push PEG
That's right.
off of the analog onto their digital, which was where it was coming, but
Yep.
they were pushing it off the evening of the primary elections.
Yep.
And that's one of the key things that PEG does is they announce local election results. I mean, it's one of their biggest functions, as you know.
Yep.
And I remember the judge listening to Comcast when we were in in the courtrooms, and she said, "Well, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it then?"
Mm-hmm.
And the response from their high-priced lawyer from the East Coast was, "Because we
As
can."
we can.
Yeah, you remember
As we
that.
can.
Yeah.
And the
Well,
judge was
and
not
where
happy with that
and
response.
where did that? Well, the judge leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes and then sat forward and said, "Well, not in my courtroom. That doesn't work." And
That's
where
right.
did we end up taking Comcast? Do you remember? Congress.
Yes,
We
that's
ended
right.
up in a hearing on C-SPAN in front of the Commerce Committee, John Dingell, the chair, who had set up the Cable Act and PEG and thought very highly of it as a way for local government, for instance, to be carried on the local cable channel as part of the franchise.
What ended up happening in Congress as a part of that was AT&T, unbeknownst to them, became a big focus. And we had gone to the Media Bureau and talked to them. We
At the,
physically went to DC, talked to
yeah,
the Media Bureau,
at the
showed them what
FCC.
was happening to the system, and then AT&T ended up being a big focus in front of Congress.
Yeah, well, Comcast got up and apologized in 2 minutes to the Congress and to the people for pulling this little stunt, which was great.
In retrospect, we failed to communicate adequately our goals and to work cooperatively with our local partners to produce a win for everyone, for the consumer, the local government, the PEG community, and for Comcast. That is not the way we want to do business in Michigan or in the rest of the country, and I want to apologize for that.
And then the 2 hours that were remaining, the AT&T people realized, oh, the rest of the 2 hours is about us
Yep.
because they're the ones who set up the PA 480 here in Michigan, which, as AT&T told me in the back of the room, well, we'll keep you whole on the dollars, but we don't want you in our business.
Hmm.
So again, it was, this effort to eliminate the ability of local government to serve as a guardrail for cable. So back in the day, before 2006 here in Michigan, if Comcast or Charter or whoever left a cable in the front yard at your house up above ground and their crews left and you just were sitting there looking at it for a day, a week or two, you could go to the city council back then and say, hey, they're not providing the kind of service that we all expect and are obligated to provide under the franchise agreement. And the city council would have the authority up to and including canceling their franchise and pushing them out of town. No, that didn't happen very often, but the point was there was local control. Now,
Hmm.
with the action of the state legislature deferring to AT&T and others, there's no control over
Hmm.
cable. There's no rate control. The FCC has abandoned that. And so that's why we see rates going up exponentially in cable and other areas. So
But there's been some other victories as well. So while sometimes you feel like there's two steps forward, one step back, there were if you could talk about Metro Act permitting, PA 480, there were some good and bad things with PA 480 and the uniform franchise agreements that are in place. I don't know if that's getting too much into the weeds. You're
probably a
shaking
little,
your head, yes,
but
probably,
no, I
probably
mean
yes.
that's you were intimately involved in all of that, and I mean, this is the problem when you allow industry to undo a state or federal national policy
Hmm.
that the Cable Act, Federal Cable Act set up, which was we're going to delegate it to local government to control these folks a little bit, and that's been dramatically undercut. Again, all in the last 30 years, state and federal. Talking about some other things that we've managed to do. So the small cells, right? The testimony I gave on the effort by again AT&T, Verizon, and others to put small cells, quote unquote, in our front yards. Well, what is that? Well, it's a 40-foot pole, a utility pole, which may be there already or may not. Just a utility pole just for their equipment, but it allows the industrial refrigerator size worth of equipment on that pole in your front yard. The industry sold the idea that, well, it's small. It's the size of a pizza box.
Hmm.
And in my testimony and others before the Michigan Senate, we pointed out, well, that I don't know where the pizza box idea comes from, but the statute allows 28 cubic feet of equipment plus other undisclosed and unspecified equipment, plus 6-foot antennas in a number which is not limited. So you could have a dozen 6-foot antennas on top of an industrial refrigerator on a new 40-foot pole in front of your house. The bill says 6 feet and I think plus 25 cubic feet, coming to like 31 cubic feet. That's an industrial refrigerator on that phone pole out in front of your house. And the FCC has already told us that if one is on a pole and it's been approved, then others can come, and there's 3 others. There's 4 wireless providers nationally. So we can look forward to potentially, under this bill, the way it's written, 4 industrial refrigerators sitting on that phone pole out in front of your house.
Yep.
That's the plan. That's what they want to do, and they want to put them every few hundred feet down every street in the state. And that's what the statute allows. And we fought that tooth and nail.
Mhm.
ProTech fought that, and we ended up taking that issue, which the FCC also fronted, to try and again push local government out of the way. We need cell service. Let's just do it. We ended up fighting that all the way out into Pasadena in the Ninth Circuit, U.S. Court of Appeals, and then the Supreme Court. And we won on the issue of aesthetics. Your comment
Mhm.
earlier about, hey, it matters what town looks like.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and they did. I remember there were a lot of ads that were placed where they said, where they put the refrigerator in the judge's front yard. And
yeah,
let's see what it looks like in your front yard or the politician. Let's put it in the politician's front yard. Here's what it looks like in the front of your house. And it gives a whole new perspective when you start putting these poles and refrigerators in these politicians' front yards because they start looking at it a little differently, I think.
yeah. Well, that fight is not over. That's coming back because you're right. When one of these lands in front of the right mayor's home, that
Yep.
mayor is going to say, Enough of this," and we're going
Hmm.
to challenge that statute under the Constitution as just an absolute uh, destruction of a, a constitutional right, which is the supreme law of the land here in Michigan. So,
And
um,
unfortunately, when it affects housing values to go down, and money speaks, and it speaks often. When that happens, politicians take notice as well. And that's not a good thing for the real estate industry. It's not a good thing for homeowners, and it's not a good thing for local government because if the housing prices go down, obviously they're going to be receiving less tax dollars.
yeah, yeah. Right now, data centers are huge, right?
Hmm.
And there's a move afoot to wipe local government's authority off the map.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of resistance to data centers, which personally, I don't think they're that big of a problem, except when you try and let the folks want to build the data centers decide where, how, when, and what they're going to build and disregard the local community. I know there's that penchant for doing it to just let's just get it done because we want quick action. And my response has been uniformly developed over the years. Hey, if you want quick, decisive action, move to North Korea. They're quick and decisive. Of course, if you are on the wrong side of the fearless leader, you end up in an early grave.
Hmm.
Um, you got to let the people come to these things, whether it's a data center, solar, windmill, electric transmission line that's 100 feet tall. You've got to let the people come to that and make that choice for their community. And if you don't, a backlash develops, and you end up with an organization like ProTech. We fight that fight all day long.
Where do you think we're failing the most as a country in regards to keeping up with other countries and broadband and internet speeds? Is it really local government? Because I haven't seen that from the ground as a local government official
No,
or employee who's
no.
saying, please bring this to our residents. Is it state government? Is it the FCC? Is it the telecom industry?
Our penchant in our capitalist society for free market and competition is a concept that works across a lot of actual free markets. The problem is we've allowed too few to get too big. And I
Mhm.
pick on AT&T. Um, they're huge. And
Mhm.
so they go out and they have their plan that they develop at their board of directors meetings in Texas, and they distribute that across the country and even beyond. Um, and because they're so big and their finances are so strong and their policy, their public policy, their political capital is so great, they're able to shove things through
Hmm.
that allow them to operate as a monopoly without any real competition. And
Hmm.
that's the problem. In Europe, there are a lot of governmental prescriptions on these communities that are on these industries that require them to serve the consumer,
Hmm.
serve local communities. And that fight for the last, I mean, here in the US, it's no secret we have deferred to, small government ideally, uh, but large corporations that end up making decisions for us about where we're headed on various issues. So
Hmm.
it's really returning the authority of the people to
Hmm.
govern, whether it's their backyard, their street, their community, their state, as opposed to a corporate board of directors who don't live in your community,
Hmm.
um, and so on. So that's my thought. This whole preemption thing
Hmm.
of local community authority is a real serious problem.
Hmm. And so government really has the job of holding the line, so to speak, and setting the standards and saying, this is what we want, and not being pushed over by industry saying, please just let us do whatever we want. And that's the problem. Because when you look at it, you have areas with 5G, you have areas with 4G. I think 3G is now gone. You have areas that still don't have telephone service. I mean, there's a lot of pockets here and there where there's a digital divide and there's a huge discrepancy in access to internet and essentially access to some people being able to have a livelihood that's as good as other people because they really don't have access to these sort of things. And so it's not really the local governments who have caused this issue. It's really this sell by the telecom industry. I don't know if it's politicians really not listening or not seeing, or they just want to believe, or if it's lining pockets and accepting lobbyist money for their campaigns, or I'm really not sure where it's coming from because it's always baffled me that they can't see it.
Well, so we're getting into some uh, deep political philosophy, but Citizens United was a U.S. Supreme Court decision, what, a dozen years ago, more, that said that corporations are people too,
Hmm.
which I suppose made corporations feel good, but of course they don't have feelings. But it allowed them to put money into the political system in huge quantities, unregulated, in a dark fashion where we don't know who's paying who for what.
Hmm.
And it's a real problem. That, I think, fundamentally at the core of your question, that is the problem. And I think people are starting to see that with the current administration in particular, where it's, you know, you've got Elon Musk who, for the cost of, we're told 300 million. I doubt that it was that much, or I suspect it was more than that. Gained some friendship with the current administration, and as a result, has glommed down 20 to 40% of the $45 billion for BEAD, which was designed to, a federal
Hmm.
statute designed to roll out broadband, particularly into the rural areas. It was supposed to be with fiber, which is the state-of-the-art way to get broadband. It's essentially unlimited access. And so what happened is BEAD all of a sudden, with the new administration, changed from a fiber project to a satellite project. Well, who owns all those satellites?
Hmm.
Elon Musk.
Hmm.
And I mean, it in my world, that is such a stark compromise of what was
Hmm.
originally a really good idea. Uh,
Hmm.
Again, industry run amok, and nobody stepping up and saying no. That's the fundamental role of government with respect to industry. We have a Sherman Act, which Antitrust Act, which is basically government at some point saying to the industry leaders, no, you can't do that.
And
whatever
that's
it might be.
and that's where
And
ProTech comes in
yes.
often. And
Yep.
what other entities? I know you're not alone on an island. I know you do work with other organizations. What other organizations and entities are out there that you've worked with on a statewide and national level to hold these companies accountable and protect local authority?
I'm glad you asked, Deborah, because I wanted to certainly talk about that. So ProTech number one is not me. I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm
You're
the
the you're the representative for ProTech. You're the speaker, the voice, the face.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm also the the blood-sucking lawyer. Um, so, but the real folks behind ProTech are the cities of Dearborn, Livonia, and Southfield, who continue to be our board members. They were our founders. Then we have 100 plus members who are
Hmm.
dues-paying members and who support what we do. Those members are all over the state. I could start listing them, but I only list a few, and that I don't want to favor any or miss any. But so in addition to our municipal members, our pals, well, Michigan Municipal League is our fiscal agent. I mean, ProTech is a governmental entity. Um, we conduct ourselves as a governmental entity. Michigan Municipal League is our fiscal agent, which means their general counsel attends all of our meetings
Hmm.
and watches our pocketbook and makes sure we're not spending more than we're bringing in, which is always a challenge. The Michigan Township Association, we work with very closely as well. The lobbyists from MTA and MML are the boots on the ground for us in the legislature. We don't have the resources to pay anybody to be there every day like those folks are. And so they're invaluable. And then we have, well, at the national level, we get NATOA, you got the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the League of Cities, the Township Association. Here we have in Michigan, I should say, NATOA and the Alliance for Community Media formed a group called MICMA,
Hmm.
which speaks for the local community PEG operation, which are the folks who broadcast the high school play on the cable channels or the city council meetings, the township board meetings,
Hmm.
the parade in town,
Hmm.
all the events that those who can't get out, for instance, the elderly, the invalid, um, can't get out. They watch, and that's how they remain a part of their community.
Hmm.
I mean, PEG is really an important issue. John Dingle, the chair of the Commerce Committee, set that up and thought that was extremely vital.
Hmm.
That, I mean, that we have an opportunity to broadcast the local city council meeting, and you don't have to show up. You can sit in the comfort of your family room and watch and see
Yeah.
what your elected local leaders are doing.
And
And it goes
that
all, yeah.
I think that really played out during COVID. I think the value and the importance of that really played out during COVID. And I also think the value and importance of local coverage for what is happening at at the local government level is important right now, especially during this political climate. The ability for people to be able to watch C-SPAN or their local township meeting or local city council meeting without any reporting or media coverage, for people to be able to watch it live and see how people are voting and what they're actually saying. And to take an opinion from that, I've always felt was the most important way to form an opinion of what was happening at the local government level, which is one of the reasons why I'm probably a big proponent of it. And the ability for people to watch that now and during COVID, I think really heightens the value and the importance of what those channels can bring to communities.
Yeah, I mean, the Open Meetings Act was amended during COVID so that people could attend meetings virtually. There are a lot of folks who can't make it to those meetings, or they're busy and they just, they're distracted by other things. What's
Hmm.
the harm of them attending a city council meeting on their phone while they're driving to Ypsilanti or whatever?
Hmm.
That's the FCC directive in the Federal Telecommunications Act is to provide communication services to all the people in an
Hmm.
unprejudiced, unbiased way.
And so
And to
that's
make the industries provide that as part of their job. But we forget about because it isn't, hey, we want to make money, maximize our shareholders' revenues, and so we need to push all this nonsense aside. Well, the nonsense is what defines our democracy. That's that's where the important things really reside. The bottom line for hey, keep picking on AT&T. The bottom line for AT&T's, fiscal year is not what drives our democracy. It's
hmm.
what the it's your point. It's what the people see, and all that comes to them through telecommunications.
And
Whether it's
that
yeah,
was a big win for them. That's a big win for the people to be able to have that and to be able to have those changes. What are some other big wins that have happened for the people? Because I know, we're talking 30 years here. There's some losses, there's some pushback,
yeah,
not every organization seeing eye to eye all the time, but there are big wins for the public.
yeah. When you fight with mega corporations, AT&T, Comcast, Charter, DTE, ITC, etc. Netflix. I mean, we're battling them right now in the legislature. We've fought off the streaming industry who provides, well, so cable has always bundled all their services. It's the nature of the cable business, right? It's going to bring you all the channels we can possibly shove into our cable system so that you have the ability to pick and watch what you want to watch out of hundreds of channels.
Hmm.
Well, this idea that, well, that's overpriced and we want to just provide you one channel. And so Netflix was born literally 2 weeks after PA 480 passed in 2000, the end of 2006. And so they provided for, I think, less than $10 a month, you could get one channel and they offered a variety of movies. Well, that same entity is now multi tens of hundreds of billions of dollars enterprise operating globally,
Hmm.
and they want to provide multiple channels, but they also now are providing live channels, live entertainment, athletics. What do they start to look like? Cable.
Yes.
I just learned from my lovely spouse that we're paying 30 some dollars a month now for Netflix,
When it
which
started off as $4 or $7
a
or
few
something
bucks,
per month.
right?
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, because they're quote streaming
Yeah.
and exempted themselves from franchise fees, which cable, Comcast, Charter have to pay and do pay as good corporate citizens of every community across the state and across the country, Netflix pays nothing to
Hmm.
anybody. Taxes, I suppose, at some point, but nothing for local government. No
Yet they're
support of,
coming into the home like a cable system is.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, and they're using the right of way to do it, the same right of way that Comcast and Charter are using and paying for. Netflix and the other streamers pay nothing. So they've been pushing a bill in the Michigan legislature since 2022, I think, trying to exempt themselves formally from the act. Well, the act was specifically written by AT&T in 2006 to create a level playing field so
Mm.
that their new system, which was IP, internet based,
Yeah.
would be on a level playing field with Comcast, the incumbent historical provider across most of Michigan at that time. And now streamers are quote unquote streamers are doing the same thing, but they're not paying anything and they're not regulated in any way. So for instance, Netflix acts like a cable company now, but they don't have to provide PEG, local programming that Comcast has to provide. And so they're pushing these bills, and we've been successful for what, 4 years now, pushing back on them. And we're the only state in the union that has successfully done this so far. And I think it's because of PROTEC, frankly. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's saying too much, but we are a vibrant organization. And this issue, with the resulting decline of cable franchise fees, because all the money is slipping out to the streamers,
Hmm.
we're looking at probably a $50 million hit for the local government across the state annually now. And so we wanted to go after Netflix and others and collect those franchise fees. And the next thing that happened was we get these bills that were offered uh, by the streaming industry to exempt them from all this. And so we have been holding off on going after them by invoicing or lawsuit to collect those fees, which they owe. The statute's very clear. Video provided through any modality, including internet, is subject to franchising. So it's a win in terms of we've prevented them from winning,
Yeah.
and we'll see where that goes. The
Do you,
other big one that just happened this week
okay.
was so a company called Dish, which was supposed to be the fourth cellular provider back
Yeah.
when T-Mobile acquired Sprint. The deal made with the FCC and the Department of Justice was this entity called Dish, owned by EchoStar, was going to go ahead and build out a new cellular service so that there continue to be at least four cellular providers, major cellular providers, for competition purposes. That was the idea. Well, at some point or other, they decided they can make more money selling the spectrum that they were going to use and had been delegated by the FCC to run their cellular service. They were going to make more money selling it.
Hmm.
And so they did. They sold it to AT&T. And then all the cities and private cell tower companies who had made lease agreements with Dish over the last several years, which Dish is obligated to pay. Dish wrote a letter to everybody and said, "Oh, you know what? We no longer have our spectrum, and so an operate by operation of law, a concept called force majeure, we can no longer pay those rents, so we're canceling them all." Well, force majeure is something that steps up on a contract where it's no longer possible to meet the contract by operation of some extraneous third party activity, um,
Hmm.
not by your own action. I mean, you Dish can't sell their assets and then claim, "Oh, we don't have any money, we can't pay the rent." No, that doesn't work. So the big tower companies, American Tower and uh, others, sued and went to federal court and the FCC and said, "You can't authorize this sale of the dish spectrum to AT&T without pulling some of that money aside for those of us who are out out the money on 30-year leases, substantial amounts of money. I mean, it could be thousands of dollars a month. You can't do that. You can't leave us standing here." So the FCC just this week issued an order that said we're going to put aside 2.4 billion out of the $30 billion sale figure, and I believe that's 30 million, but 30 billion anyway. So they set aside 2.4 billion for disappointed landlords. In the background, PROTEC, on behalf of local government everywhere, wrote a letter to the FCC and said, "Hey, in addition to the private tower companies, American Tower and others, local landlords include local government
Yeah.
who, these folks were leasing property on water towers and on city-owned towers and buildings, city hall and golf courses. Um, we should be in the hopper too." And so the FCC specifically mentioned all that and said, due to ProTech, we're now aware of local government as landlords as well, and so their interests were preserved in that order. And so that was ProTech. Nobody else did
Big.
that anywhere in
That's
the
pretty
country.
big.
Nobody. Um, and I
So let me
tried
get
to,
this, let me get this straight.
yeah,
I'm gonna try to
simplify
repeat
my legalese.
I'm gonna try to repeat what you said. So Echo Star bought, I'm gonna say it and then correct me, okay? Echo Star bought Dish Network and then sold the spectrum to AT&T, and Dish said, because we sold off, we no longer have to meet any contractual obligations. And landlords and PROTEC said, oh no, you still need to meet these obligations. And FCC agreed and said, you will set aside EchoStar, you will set aside 2.4 billion
Billion with a
billion
B,
dollars
right?
for these private landlords and public landlords, including municipalities, to get restitution for their losses on that 30-year lease agreement. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right. Right.
Okay.
And the only reason the municipalities were mentioned in the order is because ProTech requested it or demanded it, however you want to characterize it.
So if
Uh,
ProTech hadn't have written that letter to the FCC regarding public landlords, there would be no money for municipalities to get back out of this. It would all
Well,
be private.
well, that's the way I read the order. I mean, municipalities were not on the agenda at the
Hmm.
FCC. They were
Hmm.
listening to American Tower and other private cell tower companies.
Did
Now,
the
whether,
FCC specifically cite ProTech and their letter?
yeah, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I mean,
Pretty good.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, that's what we've done for ProTech
Yeah.
for years on the
Yeah.
national level to an extent, but mostly we operate in the state. But we kept looking at that FCC business and thinking, wait a minute, I know we've got communities here that had leases with Dish. It's one of the things we do.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually had a city reach out and say, well, what can we do? And I told them, well, here's what you can do. Um, but it's you versus EchoStar,
Yeah.
little
Yep.
city of XYZ.
Yeah.
And so that's what really prompted ProTech and us to file at the FCC on this issue. The hope is obviously that the cities will now come together in a consortium of whether it's ProTech related or otherwise to get after this and make sure that claims are filed in the trust that is being set up with that 2.4 billion. So,
And I've
well,
been
yeah,
following telecommunications law and legislation and been part of it long enough to know that there are moments when you just feel like deflated and you feel there are the moments could stretch a year, a few years, 3 years, where you're just feeling like you're up against these mega giants and not making headway. And then something like this happens where you've used your voice or a community has used their voice and they've put their foot down and said no. And they've said, you're not crossing this line, or enough is enough, and you've won, and or something was granted in your favor where you're like, yes, that hope is still alive. We still have hope. We're still able to have big wins for the people in our communities and the municipalities.
yeah, I mean, fight, yeah. So you fight with these big corporations, and I respect them to the extent that they're very good at what they do.
Hmm.
And so, little ProTech with our small budget, and even though we've got some great members and so on, I mean, we're used to getting beaten like baby seals. I mean, that's that's the day in and day out.
Yep.
I've got a letter on my desk from the sponsor of the latest streaming bill, and he's parroting the industry 3 cents to me and saying, "Well, why are you opposed to this?" Essentially, and like, well, because your client, sorry, your the entity you're representing, as opposed to your electors, version of PA 480 is wrong.
Hmm.
PA 480 clearly says IP provided video is subject to franchising,
Hmm.
and quit drinking the tea, or you know, anyway. So
When
yeah, so once in a while we win,
when
and it's great when it
yeah,
happens.
that's excellent. I love it. And when do you
Yeah.
think you'll see, do you think you'll see a resolve with IP and streaming and, you know, anytime soon?
Well, so John Lamacchia, who we work with at MML, who is a brilliant lobbyist, we've talked endlessly about this issue of streaming and cable and Metro Act and so on. I don't know where everything will go, but I think there is benefit to, the industry side of things is let's make this simple. Okay, we can make it simple
Mhm.
if we combine all of the concepts um, into a omnibus communications
Yeah.
bill
Yeah.
that covers everybody providing communications linkage to the people. I
Hmm.
mean, it could be simple as this. Rather than a PA 480 and all the other laws we have, state and federal, the Metro Act provides a nickel a foot for everybody in the right of way.
Hmm.
AT&T, 123 Net, whoever. If we bump that from a nickel to, say, 50 cents, which is still ridiculously low, there are states out west that are getting $6 and $7 a foot.
Hmm.
So take the nickel, make it 50 cents, one-stop shopping. You get into the right of way. You got to comply with local requirements. I mean, we don't want you cutting through the water line, right? So still some local control, but in terms of paying your way, a fair share of access to the right of way owned by the people, paid for by the people, you're going to profit off of, you pay 50 cents a foot.
Hmm.
Better than $6, $7 a foot out in Oregon
Hmm.
and Washington. So
Hmm.
I think that may be a really good answer. It's just, obviously. And then, for instance, if AT&T is in the right of way and they're paying the 50 cents a foot, they can pass that on to all the people who are using their pipe, their fiber.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just cost of
Correct.
doing
And
business.
you're not talking about the homeowners, you're talking about the other telecom companies who are
Right,
using the pipe that they laid down to put their fiber into,
right,
is what
right,
you're talking about. They
right,
can then charge rent to them.
right,
Correct.
right.
Okay, so
Anyway,
Omnibus, looking at streamlining, putting everything into one package for these companies, that's something you'd like to see. What is something else that ProTech would like to see in the future that you have future hopes for?
well,
Is there anything?
I think generally educating our new legislators, we're going to have a whole new slate of legislators coming in the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And educating them on the importance of allowing the process, the democracy, to proceed at the local level, whether it's, the housing issues are big, tax issues, telecom in the right of way, telecom on a pole in front of your house. Let the process work the way it's supposed to work. It might take a little more time, but again, unless you want to reconstitute a new North Korea here, it's okay. It's the
Mm-hmm.
price of freedom. It's the price of democracy that we
Mm-hmm.
don't get to do things, lickety split all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Anything else, Mike?
I don't think
Huh?
wonderful spending some time with you, Deborah.
You too.
Well, and Protec has a website, protec-mi.org, and we have all
Yep.
kinds of references and documents, referral sources that you can go to and take a look at all this until you're blue in the face.
And you have monthly meetings and you do provide, good information to people.
Happy
And
to put it, happy to put anybody who wants to be on our website or I'm sorry, on our email distribution list for our annual meeting or monthly meetings. Yeah,
and if
everybody's
somebody
welcome.
has a question from this, let's say municipalities out there listening or a public member and they want to know something that's going on, how can they get a hold of you?
248-921-3888 or Mike at bloomslugget.com.